Good night, America. It's time for your Political Maniacs. This week's Political Maniac, wait for it. Wait for it. I'm like Heismaning this thing. Wait for it. Because she's been a Political Maniac many times here at the Fowler Show. Our good friend, Betsy DeVos. In her first appearance in front of the House Education Committee in over a year, DeVos offered up testimony that was nothing but a total, utter, and complete disaster. The Education Secretary struggled to answer tough questions from members of Congress, resulting in numerous tense back and forths. Democrats accused DeVos of lacking leadership as she repeatedly failed to provide answers on her position on school gun violence, racial disparity, knowing that Betsy DeVos has gutted the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education, LGBTQ rights, and student loan oversight. And let's remember that Betsy, her good friends are the for-profits, and so, you know, that's what she cares about. Screw everybody else. Screw the poor, screw the vulnerable, screw people of color, and screw those who go to non-profit schools. That's basically what she's saying. Oh, and then every public school, unless it's a charter or voucher program. Now let's take a look at the 5 takeaways from Betsy's epic implosion in Congress. Takeaway, before we do that, just to give you a flavor, because you know we here at the Fowler Show believe in giving a little flavor. I think, you know, I'm a little bit of a paprika, to be frank, but this right here is like a Scotch bonnet pepper. Let's take a listen to an exchange between Betsy DeVos and Congresswoman from Ohio, Marcia Fudge.
Could you please just state for me the mission of your Civil Rights Office?
Thanks, Congresswoman, for the question. The Office for Civil Rights is committed to protecting the civil rights as determined under the law of this land, and we do so proudly and with great focus each day.
That's not the mission statement. Do you know what it is?
Ain't that something? You have a Secretary of Education that can't tell you what her Office of Civil Rights does. Now, the Office of Civil Rights, for folks at home who don't know, is a critical component to the Department of Education, and it was developed. It's been there for a long time, but it's created after the Brown versus the Board of Education and then the Civil Rights Act to make sure that every student in this country has access to a safe, welcoming, and thriving learning environment, public learning environment. But let's talk about some of the takeaways here from this bonkers testimony. Thing number 1 that you need to know about Betsy DeVos on Capitol Hill. DeVos called a CBO estimate an opinion. The hearing started off with a testy exchange between Representative Bobby Scott and Secretary Betsy DeVos mentioned a $15 billion cut to student aid that would go into effect if Republicans passed their higher education reform bill. Secretary DeVos said, I've heard that opined, but I'm not sure I agree with that. Scott asked her if she had another number, but Betsy simply repeated her answer. The Congressional Budget Office estimate that the bill would ensure students enrolled in college over the next decade would receive $15 billion, billion with a B, less in mandatory federal spending on student aid. The number wasn't just an opinion, as other members of Congress pointed out. It was analysis from a federal nonpartisan agency that's what they do. At the Congressional Budget Office, they crunch numbers and determine what the president's budget or what a congressional budget or what a bill will do or cost for the American people. And the fact that you would take a slice, a $15 billion slice, out of the pie to fund public education is literally the opposite of what President Trump promised when he ran for office. Remember, this guy ran on a mantra to make America great again. He ran on a mantra, he said he's gonna make, and he was so laissez-faire about it. We're gonna make college, we're gonna open us so people can go to college. We're gonna make healthcare better. We're just gonna make America great again. Listen, here's something, Mr. President. America cannot be great unless its greatest resource is great. And America's greatest resource, it's its people. And if we're not educating our people, and you are insistent on shutting down our borders, then how do you expect us to be great if we don't have a workforce that can do the work? And if you talk to Silicon Valley, if you talk to many of these corporations, what they are saying They're screaming it. We talked about the top of the show with John Rowe, from the former chairman and CEO of Exelon. They're screaming it at the top of their lungs. We need a qualified workforce. And how we get a qualified workforce is making sure that this government and our elected leaders are investing in public education from K through 12 and then at college. There's no reason in the richest country on earth, in the most competitive economy on earth, that students are graduating undergrad with $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of debt. But in Betsy's world and in Donald Trump's world, this is perfectly okay. Remember, America, our president is the king of debt, self-proclaimed. And Betsy, she's the queen of privatization. So you have the king of debt and the queen of privatization in this sort of unholy matrimony situation. One wants to privatize, one wants you to get more debt. It's like the perfect combination for millionaires and billionaires to thrive while the most vulnerable among us suffer. Thing number two, she wouldn't explicitly say there was a problem with for-profit colleges, which is insane. Remember ITT Tech? Remember Corinthian College? Remember all these universities that literally fell under because they were exploiting veterans, they were exploiting the vulnerable, they were exploiting the poor? I thought this guy ran as the president of our vets. I want to say the quote was, when I'm president, oh, we're going to take care of our vets. We're going to do so well for our vets. Does that mean lapping them with student loan debt, Mr. President, to the point where they can't afford it and they don't have a degree to show for it? Or does that mean you get them a for-profit degree, but they can't qualify for a real job with it? I mean, what? Like, be honest with me, Mr. President. Like, what do you? Do you really want to take care of our vets, or are you just blowing smoke up America's ass? Thing number three. She admits that the rule she changed would help victims of. She admitted that the rule she changed would help victims of for-profit colleges. That's just not true. The rule that she changed makes it harder for those at for-profit colleges to say that the college is engaging in fraudulent behavior. Thing number four, she said courts are mixed on the issues of trans rights. And this comes this week as we celebrate a decision on, and I've met this amazing young man, Mr. Grimm, last year, and he's fighting so that he could pee where he wants to pee. Here. So he's fighting for it. Right? But Betsy doesn't believe in that protection. She doesn't believe that Mr. Grimm and others like him should get that protection. And thing number five, she wouldn't take racial disparity in student discipline seriously, even though the rest of the world knows that there's a school-to-prison pipeline built off the back of black and brown students. Betsy, she lives in an alternate world.